Hey, how's everybody doing once again? So, in today's video, I wanted to talk about a run on sentence, which is, to sum it all up, a sentence that lacks punctuation, and it may also, in most cases, lack a conjunctive adverb. As a matter of fact, when people talk, there are some people that are very talkative, and when they talk, they just go nonstop without taking pauses in between their sentences. And in a sense, it could come off as not only annoying from time to time, but it could come off as with the way they talk as a run-on sentence because they're just constantly going on a rant or consistently going on a rant uh, just without giving the other person the chance or opportunity to quote unquote get their 2 cents in. As a matter of fact, I have a coworker like that, and from time to time, I never have told him, while talking to me, that he needs to take I guess you could say, be quiet from talking so much, but he just constantly, when he talks to me, he just constantly goes on and on to the point where it could annoy me every once in a while. Anyway, I wanted to give an example of a run-on sentence, the perfect example of a run-on sentence. Okay, I'll let me think for a minute. Okay, I could start out by saying I worked over 12 hours on today without taking a, let me space over, sorry about that, a break. And let me finish tracing over this ice to make it more legible due to the simple fact that I hate writing a certain letter or word, uh, only for it to be barely understandable. So that's why I like to take the time out to trace. When I do write, trace back over certain words, numbers, or letters just to make them more understandable, more legible. Okay, let me read it to you. I worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. Let me see what else I could add to it. Because this right here, this sentence was within itself, it's, to be honest, an independent clause, which means that it actually needs nothing else added to it to make it a complete sentence. Um, Otherwise, if, let's just say hypothetically, if I just were to write, I worked over 12 hours without leaving, without adding on today, without taking a break. If I were to just hypothetically write, I worked over 12 hours, that would be a dependent clause. which meant that it would be lacking expression, so to speak, or it just wouldn't come off right. It wouldn't really sound right. It would, to put it another way, need some other kind of clause to complete the sentence, which would be on today without taking a break. Therefore, by reading this whole entire sentence, I worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. That's an independent clause on a complete sentence to make it more plain and simple, because it needs nothing else to complete it except for a period. That's it. That's just basically it, a period. Anyway, I'll do this. I'll finish this way. However, I still wasn't tired at all. Okay, so what would make the sentence sound more appropriate is, or more properly punctuated was, okay, let me read it once again. I worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. However, I still wasn't tired. So I'm going to rewrite this sentence. Let me adjust my camera angle. I I'm also going to write had, because that it sounds just more better. Well, excuse me, it sounds more appropriate by using the word had in front of work instead of I worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. So I'm going to say had, which is technically a past participle, the word had, because after reading this first sentence, it's speaking in past tense, which I will go over in another video. But I'm going to complete this sentence by revising it, both revising and modifying it. So after revising it, and let me read it to you again. I had worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. I'm trying to straighten out my camera I had worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. Okay, after the word break, you're going to add a semicolon. So you're going to complete it by saying, however, and however will be a conjunctive adverb, which mainly conjoins the entire sentence without making it so much of a run-on, or without the sentence lacking punctuation. So after the word however, you're going to say, you're going to add a period, a comma. A comma. I still wasn't tired at all. Excuse me, guys, for a minute. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys, but I had to tend to something that I was cooking. The reason you kept hearing that beeping noise. Anyway, okay, I'm going to read over the second sentence, which I would revise from this very first sentence, because as you can see, this very first sentence is lacking punctuation. One being a semicolon, in between the words break and however, also a comma after the word however. So this is how it was revised. I had worked instead of I worked, which would be um, using more expression in the form of past tense by it already happening, which is in the past. By the way, had worked or had is the past participle, you would say, of I worked, instead of just how I use in the first sentence, I worked over 12 hours. Anyway, this is the revised version of that sentence. I had worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. And after, if you notice or not, I added a semicolon to separate this first sentence. I had worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. And the second clause is what you would call it, because they're technically two independent clauses. I had worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. However, I still wasn't tired at all. And by me adding a semicolon after the word break and a comma after the word however, it's just transitioning the second clause, which is however, I still wasn't tired at all. And it's also by me adding a semicolon after the word break, it's separating the first clause, independent clause, from the second independent clause. And it's also just making allowing the sentence, is what I'm trying to say, to be much more properly punctuated without it coming across as a run-on sentence. Because if you look at this very first sentence, it's a straight up run-on sentence. No matter how you look at it, or no matter how you try to make it a proper sentence, is also an incomplete sentence because it's lacking punctuation for the most part. I worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. However, I still wasn't tired at all. I mean, it's no other way to put it. It's just going on and make it more simplistic, is what I'm trying to say, how I'm trying to put it. Now, this second sentence is way more appropriate sounding, much more of a formal sentence. I had worked over 12 hours on today without taking a break. However, I still wasn't tired at all. So I'm going to conclude this video, and I just want to go over a prime example of how to use or correct a run-on sentence. Because whether you know it or not, I also wanted to add this as an example, prime example. A lot of people, when they type or text, they use run-on sentences on a regular basis now. As a matter of fact, I don't know if some of you may pay attention, which the majority of you don't, to comments on different social media platforms and forums. Whenever people may type their comments, they're always using sentences, which in most cases are a lot of incomplete sentences and hardly ever have punctuation at all. As a matter of fact, most of them don't even have sentences as well to complete. Excuse me, most of them, let me rephrase that, most of them do not usually have periods at the end of their comments or statements, which makes them a complete run-on sentence and incomplete sentence in that regard, usually. Just pay attention for all of you people that may be pretty savvy on how to complete a sentence, on how to properly formulate a sentence. Just pay attention in most cases how people on social media, when they speak their mind by typing whatever may be on their mind at the time, when they may type comments pertaining to whatever or however they may feel about a certain situation, pay close attention to how most of those sentences or comments lack lots of punctuation. In its way, I would like for you all to feel free to comment right down below in the comment section, like the video, share the video and the channel as well, so the channel could end up getting much more mainstream exposure. Last but not least, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a blessed and safe day. Goodbye.